You know, growing up, I was like, man, I can't wait till I go to prison and I'm gonna get my tattoos and I'm gonna be a homeboy and this and that.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
So, Richard, you are a child leader, you and your wife,
Yes, sir.
at God's Shining Light.
Yes, sir.
You have tattoos on your face.
That's what my pastor always says. He says, I'm probably the craziest pastor there is to let a guy with tattoos on his face be my children's pastor. But I'm a big kid too. You know, we have lots of fun. And all three of my kids are in my class, so all the other kids are like my kids too. You know, They play with each other. I'm in the program also, so my kids play with the kids. We're always around them all the time. They throw my trash for me. Like, we're very close people in our church, like a family.
Yeah, yeah. The program, what is the program?
Wings of Freedom. So our church also runs a program to help people get off the streets and get their life cleaned up, coming out of prison, different things like that, out of addiction. We run a program that they come and get in and we help walk them through the process of changing their life. And
you're in the program. What does that mean?
That means that I'm one of the people that came to get help from the program. And
as you're going through the program, you're leading the children.
Yes. Well, I started off looking for a place to serve in the church. You know, I really didn't know my place. Like a lot of people, I just knew that I wanted to do something for God. And I told my pastor, I was like, man, I don't know what my calling is or nothing like that. I just hear everybody all the time say that God has a plan for us.
So Pastor Dixie?
Yes, sir. Pastor Dixie.
He's accessible to you guys at the church?
Yes, sir. He talks to us all the time, every day. Especially, he's like, you can just walk up to the church and you see his van out there or his car out there. We just go in there and talk to him. And, you know, he's always trying to help us figure out what our calling is, figure out what we can do for the Lord, you know, because serving is a part of being changed by God, you know, finding a place to serve, serving people. Just the service by itself does something to a person.
So he teaches giving back?
Yes.
And participating in the ministry?
Yes, definitely. It should be a part of the program to serve in the church, but he don't make nobody do what they don't want to do. But it's there.
Come on now. You guys in the program, I've been around it some.
Yeah.
I've visited God's Shining Light several times, and I've read Dixie's book, his biography.
Yeah.
And you guys go to God's Shining Light and the Wings of Freedom program, and you ask for help, and that is a form of surrendering to that mentorship, to that way of life. And he does require you guys to do certain things.
Oh, yes.
But not serve at the church.
No, but coming to church is a necessary thing. One thing, too, about the program is that it's not like a normal rehab where you just like follow rules and stuff. The thing with our program is we let the Holy Spirit do the work. So the requirement is that you come to church and you read your Bible and you get you a good routine going with the Lord. And then you got brothers and sisters around you that have a good routine going already, and they come alongside you and they show you how they've been living and what they've been doing, and you kind of just fall in place with them. And the Holy Spirit does the hard work, which is clean up what's going on inside of here, you know. Like you said, we come to this church and we're broken. You know, I was homeless. I was addicted, shooting up methamphetamine in my veins, you know. I was ashamed of myself. I let my family down, let my kids down. And I came to the church looking for something else, you know.
Wanted to change.
Yeah, I wanted to change. And I just didn't know how. You know, my whole life I've lived a bad life. Ever since I was a kid, my family, my grandpa, my dad, my uncles, everybody been in prison and gangs and stuff. So I thought that was cool. You know, growing up, I was like, man, I can't wait till I go to prison and I'm going to get my tattoos and I'm going to be a homeboy and this and that, you know.
Man, that is the furthest thing from what I ever thought for myself. I can't imagine that mindset. And neither can a lot of other people that are probably going to watch this video.
Yeah.
So it was instilled in you from a young man.
Yes, my grandpa used to say, hey, convict, go get my beer for me. Or, hey, convict, go get my cigarettes, you know. He would call me and my cousins convicts, you know.
Before you ever went to jail?
Before I ever went to prison, I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, you know, little kid.
So it was cool in your culture.
Cool. Yeah, and it's a part of just how we grow up. My family, you know, all of us, we've been in and out of prison our whole lives.
Other families that were like this too? That
yes.
Said address their children as convict, or that culture was the cool way to go through life?
Right now, the prison and the streets are full of generations of people that think that lifestyle is okay. That think that lifestyle is exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
I've never heard anybody say that. I was at the Salvation Army years ago when we used to do concrete for a living, and I was measuring up their driveway or parking lot to see if we could do some remedial work, like replace sections of their concrete. And I was talking to a fellow, you know how people hang out around there during the day, and I asked the guy, he was in his 30s, I said, what is your life aspiration? What's your goal? You know, what do you want through with life? And trying to encourage him and see where he was, maybe see if I could introduce him to somebody that I knew that might be able to help him get to where he wanted to go. And his reply was, I hope I don't go back to prison until I'm at least 50 years old.
Yeah.
I hope I don't go back for like 15 years. And for the people that I know, and the people that a lot of these viewers know, that is shocking.
Yeah.
And what you're saying right now is shocking to me, because I've never heard it's cool culture to go through and live your life
in and out of prison.
In and out of prison, institutionalized. Your whole surroundings, or a lot of your surroundings, were of the institutional mindset.
Yes. And even before I met my wife, I was out here. I went to prison when I was 16. I got out when I was 19, stayed out 4 months, went back, did 10 years. Got out when I was 20. Yeah, I did 3 years my first time. I went from 16 to 19. Got out, did another robbery, and went back and did 10 years and got out when I was 29. And when I got out, I was like, man, I got out here and I didn't really like it out here because of how things were, you know, like in there. You can have a lot of money, but if you don't have respect, then that money means nothing. And out here it's different. Out here you have money, you have whatever, you know, and respect don't really mean a lot out here, you know, and only to certain kind of people.
Define respect.
Respect is
or tell me how respect operated inside the prison might be a better question.
Okay, so respect is like your boundaries, you know, like you got, like I'll give you an example. Out here, when I first got out, you know, I was in a prison gang. And
when you got out, you went into a prison gang?
No, I was in a prison gang in prison. So when I got out, I went to see some of my homeboys, right?
The same guys that were affiliated with that gang?
Yeah. And everybody was like, had stolen from each other. They had got into fights with each other over girls. So much stories I was hearing about this guy killing this guy robbing this guy.
In the same gang?
In the same thing, you know, in the gang. And I said, wow, they came out here and lost all their respect for the code, for what we live by, you know.
Yeah, I've heard if you lie in prison or if you step across somebody's boundaries in prison, you've had a bad day.
Yes.
Bad day.
And in there too, you know, like it was funny because I started driving and, like people cut in front of you while you're driving. They don't turn their, and I would get mad and I'd be like, I'll pull up on the side of them and throw my soda at them and stuff. And I'd be like, man, don't be.
No way. You throw a Coke or a pop can at their car?
Yeah. I'd be like, don't be cutting in front of me, and I was really institutionalized, and even waiting in lines, people looking at me, I would go to the store and I'd be like, what you looking at? Like I was a mean person. And so everywhere I went, I was always in trouble, always into some drama. And I felt like, I don't belong out here. I don't need to be out here. And so I was doing so much crazy stuff. I was just waiting for the day to get busted and go back to prison. And then I met my wife. And when I met her, I said, oh, I don't want to go to prison no more. She kind of softened me up. She had heard in my neighborhood where I was from, everybody knows me. And everybody hears stories, stuff that I do out there.
You're a native Tulsan?
No, I'm from Houston, Texas. And we've lived in Tulsa for about 9-10 years now. But I was born and raised in Houston, Southeast Houston. And over where I'm from, a lot of people know me, my family and my friends, and they always tell stories about the bad stuff that I would do. And my wife, she heard about these things and she was like, I don't want you to do stuff like that no more. And so, I was kicking down people's doors and hurting people. So my idea of chilling, I said, okay, well, I don't got to do that. My idea of staying out of trouble was selling drugs. I said, well, I'll just sell some drugs then, and maybe move some people around the United States, stuff like that. I'm not going to be hurting nobody though, right? And so that's what we did for a little while, me and my wife together,
She was cool with that.
Yeah.
No violence.
Yeah. As long as we just make money and chill, not hurt nobody. And that was all good until my daughter that's out there, she was pregnant with her. And the whole time she was pregnant, we never went to a doctor appointment because we ran different states, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, just going different places, taking drugs and stuff. And we got into Tulsa and she went into labor. And so when we went to OSU, they didn't know that the baby was upside down. And it was crazy. She's having a C-section and I'm standing on this side of her and they got that curtain up and we're talking and she's like, I think something's finna go wrong. And as soon as she said that, I was about to tell her to calm down and she died, And the doctors were like, you need to leave, you need to get out of here. And I was stunned because I was like, what just happened? And I walked across the thing and they had her stomach open with this metal thing, some type of tool, and blood was just spilling out of her. And I was looking like, what's happening? They had a big old mountain of gauze, like this tall, big old mountain of nothing but blood-covered gauze. And then I seen that she started breathing again. They had this thing over her face pumping oxygen into her. And so I walked out to the hallway and I was so stunned I forgot about my daughter. And when a nurse comes out, she said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your daughter's not breathing on her own. She actually died too. And they brought her back and they had to fly her from OSU to St. Francis and put her on the baby life support. And so I was not a believer at this time. I had a brother-in-law. Ever since he was like 16, 17, he's been walking with the Lord, right? And him and my baby sister, they've been together since they were young, like 14 or 15 years old. And he's always telling me about God and always talking to me about God. And I always be like, man, I don't want to hear that stuff, bro, Calm down. I don't want to hear that right now, Well, he came up to the hospital because they told me, well, your wife had an amniotic fluid embolism, which means the sac that comes out with the baby tore open inside of her and got in her bloodstream. And she had to get 3 whole body blood transfusions. And she actually died again during one of them. And she was in a coma. And my daughter, she wouldn't breathe on her own. They couldn't find out what was wrong with her. So the doctors are telling me all this stuff. My sister was at St. Francis with my daughter, and I was over here with my wife, and he came to see me. He was like, don't worry, I got churches all over the place praying for her. They're going to be all right. And I was like, man, the doctors already told me that this is a bad situation. And not a lot of people survive what happened. And, I told him, man, I just think that they might not make it. And he was like, don't worry. Have you prayed? And I was like, man, I told you, I don't do that stuff, right? And it's funny because one time when I first got out of prison, my brother-in-law came to pick me up, and he was talking to me about God. And I told him, man, I probably won't ever give my life to God because I don't see myself hitting my knees for nobody, not for a man or for God, for nobody. I'm not ever going to hit my knees. Well, when he told me if I prayed, I said, nah. He said, well, if you love your wife and your daughter, you'll try anything. So there I go with him to the chapel in OSU. And I was like, man, I never asked God for anything. I got on my knees. And I was like, well, God, you take my life, let my wife and my daughter live. And so we went up to the ICU for like 20 minutes. We were up there. And then all of a sudden the doctors come running out and they're like, first thing the doctor said was, this is a miracle. Your wife woke up out of her coma, and she woke up, she started fighting. So he was like, she hit a couple of my doctors, so we had to sedate her. He was like, man, in 12 hours, we're going to wake her up and see what we're dealing with. So before that, she had blood clots all over her body, even in her air passageways from all the blood transfusions, right? And her heart was at 20%. So he's like, we'll wake her up in 12 hours, see what we're dealing with. While he's telling me this, my sister Carolina's at St. Francis. She's blowing up my phone. So I answered the phone, like, what's going on? She said, the baby started breathing on her own. You need to come up here right now. So it was like at the same time, my wife and my daughter came back, boom. And it was the first time where God had my curiosity. Like, I looked at my brother-in-law and I wondered to myself, like, is this real? Did God hear me? Is there a God? Like, my curiosity had been piqued, and I was just wondering a lot of things. Well, my wife and my daughter made it out of there, thank God. And even though God did a big miracle for me, it didn't change me. I was like, well, I appreciate it, God. And went right back to doing what I was doing, right? And I ended up getting worse in my addiction and started fighting with my wife and got into this big old fight and go to jail. And while I was in jail, my kids got taken from us, they got split up. And so I was really, really sad because it was my first time doing time, having people. My first time, my mom and my sisters, we weren't that close. And I had already chosen that life over my family. But this time I had my kids and my wife, and I said, wow, man, every second of the day, I can only think about them. What are my kids going through right now? What are they thinking? They don't have their mom, they don't have their dad, and they don't have each other. What are they thinking, So I was really sad, and I was really, really mad at myself and other people. And in walks this pastor, Brother Chris Stevens. He walks in and he's like, yeah, God sent me here to pray for somebody today. And I was just standing up against the wall, and he looks at me and he's like, it's you. God wants me to pray for you, brother. And I was like, man, I'm good, And he was like, you're really mad. You got a lot of anger in you. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he was like, let me pray for you. So he started praying for me. And it was like my anger and my sadness just calmed down. And I felt really, really calm. And he was like, how do you feel? And I told him, man, I feel good. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And I went back to my cell and I said, well, God, if you're trying to tell me something, when I get out of here, I'm going to go to a church. And you show me what's up, because I don't know what to think right now. I don't know if this is real. I don't know if I'm tripping. I didn't really know what to think because I never grew up with God. None of my family's ever been like that, And so a couple of months passed, I get out of jail. My brother-in-law comes pick me up. He's like, where do you want me to take you? And I told him, take me to a church. And the first church he took me to was Rhema. He was like, man, I never been to this church. he didn't want to take me to his church. He was a 7-day Adventist at first. He's like, I don't want to take you to my church because I got a lot of questions about things they teach. He said, I never been to this church, but I heard it's a good place to go. So let's both go for our first time. So I'm like, cool. We go over there and we sit down and there's this old lady and this guy, they like keep looking at me. And so, me and my old ways, I'm like, what are you looking at? What's up? And he just keeps looking to turn around. Every time I tell him, what's up? He turns around. Well, towards the end of the service, the old lady comes up to me. She's like, starts asking me questions, where'd I come from and all this. So I tell her, man, I just got out of jail today. I really don't know what to do right now. I told her, man, I don't have none of my family. I can't go stay at my sister's. My brother-in-law just brought me up here to this church. I don't know what I'm going to do right now. And she was like, don't worry. I got somebody I want you to meet. And she took me to meet this guy. He was in the suits, old white guy. His name's Charles Daniels. And it was crazy meeting him because he was like, you don't know me and I don't know you, but God told me to do 3 things for you. He said, you need a vehicle, you need a place to stay, and you need a job. And I was 34 years old and I had never worked a day in my life. Didn't know how to do anything ever. I prison and drug, bad stuff my whole life. And so I was like, yeah, I do need a job. I do need that. And he pulled out a $100 bill and he pulled out his card. He was like, show up tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And so I show up at his office and meet him and meet his little crew there at the Construction by Daniels. And he takes me to this apartment on Lynn Lane and he pays $1,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. And then he bought me a 2003 Mitsubishi Diamante. And then he said, go get your family. I went back to Texas. I got my wife. I got my kids. Came back to Broken Arrow. And he was like, you got a job with me in my company. And I lived a pretty good life. I was going to Rhema. I was an usher at Rhema. I was working for Construction by Daniels, just like cleaning up for them and stuff like that. Rhema let me sit in the Bible college all the time, sit in the classes and learn. And it was a cool life. But then I started messing with old friends and, talking about old stuff.
Yeah. People, places, and practices is what we call it here at the Complete Peace Movement. Those are 3 things that can help or hurt you.
That is true.
So you started going back around those people. You thought you were good?
Yeah.
And that you were going in a good direction. Why'd you go back to those people?
Well, I met one of my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, and he was getting high still. And as soon as I seen him and he was telling me and I seen how he was high and everything, it was like I was in a bubble in Broken Arrow. But as soon as I seen him, I was exposed to that again. And it was like instantly my mind wanted to feel that again. And so the desire was in there and it was growing every day that I talked to him. I was like, man, I want to get high. And I was trying to fight it, trying to ignore it and do all this different stuff that people say to do. And it wouldn't go away, and I kept on and I said, and then I just wanted the opportunity to come where me and him could get high. And bam, it came and we got high. And it was crazy because the very next day was my birthday and I was making all these plans. We're going to the casino, we're going to do this. And I got pulled over and they took me to jail because I was on probation for escape after arrest. I went to jail fight with my wife. I fought with the cops too and jumped out the cop car, took them on this long chase and all type of stuff. So I was with the jail and then I was on probation and I forgot to go for a review, which means after you do 1 year, you go back to court and you just tell them, yeah, I've been doing all my classes and everything. Well, I forgot to do that and I went to work. So I had a warrant out for my arrest and didn't even know. I got pulled over on my birthday and they took me to jail for that, right? And so I'm thinking, well, I didn't do nothing. I'll probably get out tomorrow. And I went to court and the judge was like, I'm tired of y'all thinking y'all don't got to show up for y'all review. Finish off the rest of your time in the county jail. So I had like 5 months left and I lost everything again. I was in the county jail. But this time, I knew God. I knew the good life. I had a little taste of it. And I knew I didn't want that other life, you know what I'm saying? I knew that I made a mistake, you know? And so when I went in there, I studied my Bible. I became like the pastor of the pod in the jail. And my wife, for about 2 months, it was cool. She was still in an apartment over there in Broken Arrow, and then they evicted her because she didn't have no money to pay the rent, right? So she goes to Salvation Army, the one right next to Tulsa County Jail.
Yeah, the one I mentioned earlier, same place.
Yeah, her and my kids were there. And every night we have a prayer call in Tulsa County Jail. And I will always pray for all the brothers in there all the time. And one of those days I was like, man, I know I always pray for y'all, but I need y'all to pray for me now, because my wife told me that, being over there, it was around a lot of bad stuff. There's a lot of drugs and people, nasty people and stuff. And she was like, man, we're in this place and we need you right now, right? So I was kind of mad at God too, because I was like, well, I'm the one that did all the mistake. Why are my wife and my kids suffering, right? Well, this lady named Miss Kitty that works at Tulsa County Jail, she passes out the little religious books. You probably know who I'm talking about. She's a Catholic lady. Well, she came in to pass out religious books, and she was like, man, God has a calling on your life, brother. I just want to tell you that. And I told her, man, I feel like that too, but I'm mad at God right now. And she was like, why? And I told her, well, I'm the one that did all this bad stuff, but I've been in prison my whole life. This is not nothing that I can't take going to jail, right? But my family, seeing them hurt, seeing them in a bad situation, they're the ones really hurting, not me, And so she was like, well, you and your wife are one flesh. Whatever you do, it will happen to her too. So don't think that it's God, it's you. And I was like, oh, man. She was like, give me your wife's phone number so I can pray with her. So later on that night, I called my wife, and my wife was like, you know this lady named Miss Kitty? I said, yeah, I gave her your phone number so she can pray with you. She said, well, she just bought us a hotel at the Hilton until the day you get out. Yeah. I was like, what? She said, yeah. And that lady took care of my family for the rest of my time in there, all the way to the day I got out, and just boom, left us alone. She was like an angel. And I thank God for that lady's life. But so that happens, I get out of, I'm waiting for Brother Chris Stevens, I'm in this jail again. So the first time he comes out, I say, well, I hope I see that guy again that I seen the first time to pray for me, right? Mm-hmm. Because now I know God, and I wanted to talk to him. And sure enough, it was my last day there. He came in, and I told him, hey, you remember me? He's like, yeah. And I told him, man, when I get out of here, I wanted somewhere I can go to. I was like, last time I got out, it was like if God just threw it in my lap, everything that I needed. And I was like, man, I don't think that's going to happen again, And he was like, when you get out, I'm going to help you. You call me. He gave me his phone number. So I got out. And I called him, and I was at my sister's house. My sister was a manager of these apartments. He said, you know what? Right across the street from where you're at is a church called God Shining Light. He was like, walk over there to that church, and I'm going to introduce you to the pastor. And I went over there. He introduced me to Pastor Dixie, and he got me in the program. And once again, God threw everything in my lap again, a place to stay, a job, there was a lady on Facebook that my wife won some gifts from. I went to her house. She runs a group on Facebook called the Angel Group. I went to her house to get some gifts, and she came out. She was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this thing called Adopt a Family. You think you and your family could be the first ones we adopt? And I'm like, yeah, you can adopt me and my family anytime you want.
We'll take all the help you want to give.
For real. So she comes to my house, she gets like all of our clothes sizes and looks around our apartment. We didn't have nothing because we, just come off the street. And she was like, don't worry, I'll be back in a couple of days. So like 5 days passes, she comes back in this van full of stuff, clothes, TV, everything. And she's like, that van you just unloaded? I told her, yeah. She said, that's yours too. And pulled out the title for it with a letter from a lady that said she had been waiting on me for a whole year. She's like, man, I've been waiting for you for a whole year. I got the brakes done for you. I got the oil done for you and everything. God has a calling on your life. And I was like, wow, this is crazy, But God, with those things like that, I begin to see that God was real. And I was just getting this in my head. Hey, man, God is real. God hears the prayers. God knows what's going on. And I was learning all this by experience more than anything else. And we did good for a little while, and then I started doing bad again. Like chilling with old people, going around old places and stuff. And that's how, this is my second time in the program. We got kicked out of the program the first time. And Pastor Dixie gives like millions of chances. Like as long as you get back up and you're willing to keep going, 9 times out of 10 he'll give you another chance. But once he sees like that you're not gonna even try, then he's gonna say, okay, well, you need to go back out to that world, get brought down to your knees again, and then come back and try again,
Yeah, fail far enough.
Yeah. And
but there's a foundation for people that realize that they have fallen far enough.
Yeah.
That God allows them to get there.
That's right. Yeah. And you really it humbles you. Before, so I was 31 the first time I tried drugs,
GSL?
No, I was 31 the first time I tried methamphetamine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was a grown man already. My whole life, I'd never been addicted to drugs. I was just selling drugs, gangs, robbing, never was.
All stone sober.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was way worse sober. But when I came over here to Oklahoma and tried methamphetamine, and I got hooked. But by doing that drug, it humbled me because I was so prideful that I would never step foot in a church. I would look at people who were addicted to drugs and I'd be like, oh man, that's dumb. Why don't they go sell some drugs and get some money and stuff like that? And so in that mind frame, I would have never set foot in Celebrate Recovery. I would have never set foot in a church. I would have never talked to anybody about anything like that, But from doing the drug, I felt shame for the first time. My whole life I was like doing bad stuff and I was proud. And I was like, yeah, look at who I am. Look, everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows what's up with me. And I never felt shame for it. But when I got on drugs and my family cut me off, my family looked at me and said, you're on that stuff? We're not going to mess with you.
So it was okay to be institutionalized mindset, but it wasn't okay to do drugs with your family.
Yeah, well, it's not okay to be a drug addict.
Right, okay.
To be a drug dealer and make money and organize crime and stuff like that, that's okay. But to be a drug addict, someone that don't make money, someone that lives on the streets, someone that don't have no priorities and stuff, because even
it's amazing how different people have different ideas and different cultures live.
Yeah, different lifestyles. It's like a person that even in Houston, everybody in the streets, they're like, well, if you ain't selling drugs, if you don't got golds in your mouth, if you ain't doing this and doing that, then you're nobody. So like, if you're just sitting on the sofa playing video games all day, you're not even recognized as a somebody, only the people that are out there in the streets selling drugs and doing stuff and making money, stuff like that.
So that was kind of the two options, either stay at home, play video games, or be out and about selling drugs. Yeah. There wasn't any such thing as a work culture, giving to community and all of that stuff.
No.
That didn't exist.
No, sir. I remember when I was in 6th grade, my mom's boyfriend, he got a pound of weed and he sat me down and he was showing me how to weigh everything up and he put it in bags for me. He was like, when you go to school, you sell this to your homeboys and everything. And he told me, this is how we get money right here, right? And he was like, why you want to go to work for $10 an hour or $15 an hour when you can make hundreds of dollars in a couple of minutes? So for a long time, I thought going to work was dumb. And yeah, and I thought, why am I going to go work for somebody when I can just sell some drugs and make money in a couple of minutes, what they make in a whole week, And because of that, I didn't know how to do anything at first, I didn't know the names of tools or any of that stuff. And but that's another good thing about the program. There's a lot of brothers that come to the program that are same way, raised their whole life, prison, drugs, gang stuff. never had a job. They're 30, 40 years old. They don't know what to do. Or they've been in prison 20, 30 years. And we even got some brothers that have been in prison for 30, 35 years, you know, and their whole life since they were 16 years old, and they don't know what to do out here. The good thing about the program is that you don't only get a place to stay, but you get a job. We work for Pastor Dixie also.
Right.
So,
yeah.
like...
But it's not a requirement that you work for him. He does allow people to work for other
work
companies
for
too.
Yeah.
But he has opportunities for housing and employment.
Yes. And so most of the time, the brothers that do come to work for Pastor Dixie are the ones that he knows need that extra help to kind of learn what to do and kind of set up a structure. So like if you've been in prison your whole life, you don't have the priorities that people out here have. So out here, you're used to paying bills. You're used to, okay, I got to set money aside for my kids, for this, for that. In there, you don't have to take everything that's given to you, brought to you, right? So your priorities are kind of messed up, you know? You're like, oh, well, in prison, my priority is wake up in the morning and do a workout or something, you know? Out here, you can wake up and work out. That don't mean your bills are going to get paid, though. You know, in there, you don't got to worry about that. And so you come out here, you got to learn a new set of priorities. And you got to learn how to be responsible, too. People in prison, I'm not going to say they're irresponsible, but they don't have the level of responsibility that you have out here. Out here, if you don't go to work, you could really be on the street homeless. In there, if you don't go to work, you're just going to be in your cell. They can't really do nothing to you bad. You know, you're already in prison. And you're still going to eat. They're still going to bring you 3 meals a day. That out here, you could really go hungry if you don't work, you know? And so it's a different level of responsibility out here. And people have to learn that. And one good thing about the program is the people that do need that extra help like that, Pastor Dixie has the place to put them, you know, to come work with us. And we walk them through, you know, we let them know like, hey, brother, what the drugs in the streets take out of you, work will put back in you. You know, like work gives you a sense of purpose, you know, and when you get your first paycheck and you start paying bills and you see how that's cool. You know, you start feeling, hey, I feel good. I got my bills paid, everything's taken care of. I got some money in my pocket. I get up in the morning, I go to work every day. You start feeling like you have a sense of purpose now. You know?
And you see things that you are doing with your life that have meaning with what you guys do.
Yes.
What type companies does GSL or Pastor Dixie have for people to go to work?
He has Pro Sprinkler, which is a sprinkler service. They go put sprinklers in, house sprinklers. And then he has the trailers, Green Country Trailer, which is they rebuild trailers and they rent out trailers and stuff. And then we have the construction company. They don't have a name on it. It's just a bunch of brothers that we're just together. And what we do is we're building more apartments for people to come in and get help, you know? Like we just finished building the front part of the Saratoga. And almost all of that was built by us, by the people in the program. And when we're out there building, we know that we're not just building another apartment, but we're actually building an opportunity for someone to come and change their life, you know? And so it has purpose, it has meaning to it. All of us know that God can do this big miracle that most people need done, which is a change of heart. You know, when a person lives their life bad, that change that needs to be made, they had to become a new person. You know, like it says in the Bible, old things pass away, behold, all things become new. You got to be born again. You got to be a new man. And one thing about when we build over there, we know that we're building an opportunity for someone to come and become that new person, you know? And we got everything they need there. Not just a job, but it takes a group of people around you to stay strong. You know, like when I got my brothers around me and I'm staying sober and they're staying sober, I'm not just staying sober for myself no more, but I'm also staying sober for them. Yeah. You know,
or you can go back to your old friends and you can get into bad lifestyle again. Yeah. Those people around you will encourage you to do whatever it is that is common in that lane.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're not trying to hurt you. You know, some people say, well, if they're your friend, then they wouldn't offer you this and offer you that. But in that lifestyle, offering somebody drugs is being a friend.
Yeah.
You know,
It's where they are, it's what they have.
Yeah. And you know that they don't, I'm not going to say they don't know no better because we know that it's bad, but it's just looked at in a different way. And you know, eventually that dies. Eventually the desire for that lifestyle and for the drugs and stuff, that goes away eventually. Like I've been 5 years sober now. And
5 years sober, and you're now in the Wings of Freedom program?
I'm still in there, yes. So I've already graduated and everything. Yeah. So
how long ago?
About 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So the program, you graduate in 6 months, you could graduate, but it if you want to stay there and help out, like become a mentor or somebody that walks other people through the process, you can stay there too, and you can help other people. And that's basically what me and my wife do right now.
So you and your family live in one of these apartments
Yes,
that
sir.
Pastor Dixie has?
Yes, sir. We live in Gardenwood, and I love it because I live with my church family. You know, like I look at the book of Acts, you know, how they said how back then when the church first started, people would sell all their stuff and they would go and live in the community of believers. And
yeah, and have all things in common.
yeah, and I live that every day. I live with the believers and we have all things in common. And we pray together, we worship together, we work together, we go to church together, we do everything together. And it's really the best life that I've ever lived. And I thought I was living a good life when I was selling drugs and I had $1,000 of gold in my mouth and I had Versace's and all this stuff. But right now, I have so much peace and so much happiness. I got my wife, I got my kids, I got a very good church family. My mom is proud of me. My sisters are proud of me. You know, for a moment, my sisters were ashamed of me and they were mad at me, you know, because I chose prison and stuff over them. And, you know, it took a long time for them to forgive me for that. But right now, I have peace with them. And I have peace with my family and peace with people. And I actually now can go around, you know, like we do outreach on Sundays. We go out and we feed homeless on 11th Street, up and down 11th Street. We go feed them and we pray with them. So I can actually go out back into that places like that and not have to worry about being triggered by wanting to go back to that, you know. Like I said, that eventually the desire for that stuff will die. You know, the more you press into the Lord, the more he cleans you up inside, the more transformation takes place, you know. And pretty soon you look back and you're like, man, that I'm not even the same no more. Like that guy died. Like I went to the prison on Friday with Pastor Dixie to go talk to the people in prison. And I told them, man, I could sit here and tell you all these stories. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, everything you could think of, man. I've been through everything. And I did 7 years of solitary confinement when I was in prison. I was a bad, bad person. And I can tell you all day long about that, but I'll be telling you about somebody that died because I'm not that man no more. I don't feel the same. I don't think the same. Nothing is the same, you know. Only the shell is the same, you know. But the man inside is not the same. And because I know that works, I'm down with the movement of building the sober center, helping people out when they come to the program, because I know that really works. And I want what I got for other people to have that too, you know?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of families get tore apart from the drugs and from prison. Even when I was in prison, before I ever knew God, sometimes I'll have my homeboys and they'll be sitting there and they'll be looking all sad. And I'll be like, what's wrong? And they'll be like, man, I miss my kids. And I didn't have no kids then. And I'll be like, oh man, come on, stop thinking about that stuff, right? But nah, that's a big pain right there for a father to not be around his kids. And
generationally, you guys were like that's what you said.
Yeah. My dad was in prison my whole life. And so my mom had different boyfriends and stuff. So, I mean, they'll step in and they'll show me different things. But I never had a dad. I never had no one sit down with me and show me how to go fishing Never had no one take me camping, nothing like that, you know. I was always taught bad things. And I don't want that for my son or my daughters.
Do you still have family members in prison?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My family in Houston, they still live a pretty bad life. You know, they still do a lot of things. And I've been to Houston already to go talk with them and everything. And it was cool. But to come out of that, you gotta desire to come out of that. And until you desire that, what we believe will look like foolishness to the people of the world, because they're blinded by the enemy, you know. And I was blinded by the enemy for a long time. And when I was in prison, people would come in there, talk about the Bible all the time. The different churches will come into the prison and they'll be like, man, we got free food. And everybody be like, let's go and get some free food. That don't mean that when we go back to our cell, we're going to open the Bible and think about God, even though we just heard 2 or 3 hours of preaching and all this stuff, right? And we got free food. Because of the veil that's over the eyes of people that can't see right. But now I look back and I can see how my own family, my own friends and everything are caught up in that little cycle that the world has created for people to live in. And it's hard to break free from that, man. And I don't force nothing on nobody. You know, I know that everybody's going to have to come to the Lord on their own terms. And the Lord's working on people. You know, the Holy Spirit's doing the work. I just try to be a good example myself. You know, I was thinking one day, what am I supposed to do, God? Like, I hear some people over here healing people, some people over here doing this, doing that. And, you know, the Lord just said, man, just be a good example. Just set a good example. What does a Christian look like? Be a good example for the brothers around you, you know? And I work with that, you know? So, you know, that's all I focus on. I say, man, I want to be a good example of what a good Christian is, you know, what a good man of God is. And that guides me. Trying to be that good example guides my life right now.
And all of this history and Dixie encouraged you to become a youth leader.
Oh, yeah. So at first I was just doing outreach, you know, feeding the homeless people on Sunday, and my wife was watching the kids and teaching the kids. And I was thinking, well, that's her thing. You know, she's a girl, so, you know, she wants to be around kids and stuff. I wasn't ever thinking like me being and doing that stuff. But I had went into a meeting with Pastor Dixie and some of the leaders in the church, and I told them, man, right now I'm searching for my place. I don't know where I belong in here, but I don't know if it's picking up trash or cleaning the toilets or what, but I just want to let y'all know that I'm just looking for a place wherever y'all can put me to serve. And they were like, all right, you know, we're going to find you a place. And I had so much history with Pastor Dixie in the church. You know, like I said, my first time coming to the program, me and my wife were real rough around the edges, and we used to fight a lot. And we would get high, and we would fight in the church a couple times.
Fist fighting, wrestling around in the church, in the sanctuary.
Yeah, like choking and slapping each other in the church. And we got put out of the church by Pastor Dixie a few times. So I was, in my mind, I said, well, they'll never let me.
Yeah, that disqualified?
Yeah, I was like, they'll never let me serve in the church like as a real helper to do something. I'll probably just have to stick to throwing trash and stuff like that, right? But the good thing is one of the pastors, she was like, hey, go help Miss Sherry and Pastor John. They were like, go help your wife watch the kids. And I was like, all right, cool. So I go over there and help them. And then they asked me again and again and again. And then I told my wife, I was like, well, they need somebody to teach the kids and watch the kids. I told her, is this something that you want to do? Because maybe this is our chance to serve in the church, you know? Maybe this is our opportunity where we can do something. And then Miss Margot comes. And man, it was like everything I need, God always sends it at the right time, you know? And here I was, you know, I went to prison in 9th grade. I don't know a lot of stuff. And here God sends me this woman that's very educated, and she has the right mentality, everything that's needed to rub off on me, all these good things. And she came and she was like, I'm here to raise up a children's pastor. And she was like, man, do you want to see these kids' lives change? You want to, they've been hurt. They've been through so much trauma, you know. You have a chance to pour into them where they might not have to go to prison or be on drugs or be in gangs and stuff. And she was like, do you want to be a part of something like that? And I told her, yeah. If God can you think God will use me to do something like that? She was like, yeah. She's like, that's why I'm here. And I was like, man, it blew my mind, you know, that this is what I wanted. I wanted a place to serve in the church, but I didn't feel qualified, and I didn't feel like I was worthy. And here it was. She came and she started teaching me different things about curriculums and, you know, how to set up the structure in the classroom, a lot of different stuff. And we did about 1.5 years of training. And she was like, man, you're doing very good. And it's time for us to ordain you and you be the children's pastor. And so that I got ordained and became the children's pastor. And it just blows my mind how God does these type of things, because like I said, there was a moment where the church was mad at us, you know, and I was in that Salvation Army you're talking about that you went to.
Yes.
Me and my wife, before we got back in the program the second time, we were there together. You know, the first time she was there by herself.
Right, yeah, while you were in David Omas.
Yeah, yeah, that was the first time.
Yeah.
And then we came to the program and got kicked out of the program, right? When we got kicked out, we moved to the apartments across the street from the church that my sister was a manager of.
Mm-hmm.
And we stayed there about 1.5 years. And then we lost our apartment there. And we came to church and we were like, can we get back into the program? And they were like, oh, no, we don't want y'all back in the program. Pastor Dixie was like, man, my staff, the first time you did a lot of bad stuff, you know, like I got high with other people, just a lot of bad things, bad choices I made. They made me look bad, and they didn't want to give me another chance, right?
Made you look bad, or you were bad?
I was bad, yeah. I would say I made bad choices, and then I was bad, you know? And so I went to Salvation Army at first with my wife and my kids. And we were there for a couple months, and we would still go to a Big C. It's a pastor at our church named Big C. He would go and pick us up from Salvation Army. He'll bring us to church. And man, that brother, he did a lot too. Every time God sends somebody to come into my life and pull me out of it. Big C was that person at that time. He brought me back into the church.
And he does that for everybody. How many other people do you know that God has done this for them too?
Everybody in that program.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's brothers there. Like, that's why it's so cool to be in a community of other brothers and sisters, because it's nothing but miracles everywhere, all around. I'm talking about God, people who've never thought they would get their kids back, got their kids living good, having a family, going to work. Like, I get to see this all the time. And nobody questions the power of God. Everybody knows the power of God. Everybody knows God is working. It's not even a question to any of us.
But this man was going to Salvation Army and taking y'all to church.
Oh, yeah. Big C was. And then, we're there at Salvation Army for a few months. And I had this dream, and I told him, man, Big C and Chris Stevens, I called him and I said, man, I had this dream that some old man came to me in my dream and told me that somebody's going to give me a car. And then when I wake up, me and my wife need to start thanking God for this car that's on the way. So as soon as I woke up, I told my wife what happened, and she was like, well, let's start thanking God then. So every day, in the morning and the night, me, her, and my kids, we'll pray to God and we'll thank God for this car that was on the way. And 2 weeks passed, and I was calling different churches asking for food pantries, because we're the Salvation Army. You don't have a refrigerator. You're just like in a room like this with a bed. And so you got to have like peanut butter and crackers so you can eat through the night, right? So I was calling around food pantries looking for stuff like that. And I called Church on the Move. And I told them, man, me and my wife and my kids, we're in the Salvation Army, and we're looking for non-perishables, like stuff that we can just keep in a bag or something. And the lady said, well, we don't have a food pantry, but I could talk to the pastor. Maybe we can help you one-on-one. She's like, I'll call you back. And she called me back like an hour later, and she said, I was telling the pastor about your situation, and there was a brother sitting in the room, and that guy wants to give you a car. So I was like, what? This is 2 weeks after I told Big C and Chris Stevens about this dream, right? And so I called Big C and Chris Stevens, and I said, hey, remember I told you to have that dream? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, tomorrow, some people from Church on the Move is coming to give me a car. And they were like, what? I'm coming up there. So that pastor, he calls me that night, and we talk, and he's like, what church do you go to right now? And I tell him I go to God Shine a Light, and I didn't tell him that everybody was kind of mad at me and everything. I just said, yeah, I go to God Shine a Light. And so he was like, all right, I'm going to pray tonight, and then in the morning we'll get together and we'll figure something out. And so he comes to Salvation Army, and he brings me the car, and he's like, you know, I got a message for you. Before I give you this car, you got to do something for me. And I was like, what's up? And he said, well, I prayed all night. I was going to come and get your wife and you and your kids and bring y'all, put y'all in an apartment and bring y'all to my church and help y'all have a new life with my church. He said, but God told me not to because your place is at God Shine a Light. And he said, so before I give you this car, you're going to give me your word that you're going to serve that church. You're going to serve the pastor in the church, and you're going to serve those people in that church. And he said, one day you're going to be strong, and you're going to start tithing, and you're going to want to give back. That's the church you need to stay giving to right there. And I was like, he don't know how mad they are at me. That'll never happen. I was thinking, right? I was like, man, but I didn't say nothing. I just said, okay, I give you my word. He gave me the car, right? And that was 5 years ago. And all the time I think about that man, you know, and I've kept my word. I never seen him again. One day I'm gonna go talk to him again, you know. I'm gonna go up to that church and go ask for him.
You remember his name?
Nah, it was a tall, Big C and Chris Stevens know him. He was a tall white guy. And he came, it was a black guy that gave me the card. He was the brother that was in the room with him when the lady was telling him about me, and he was the other guy's the one that gave me the card, but he came with him. I don't know who he is. I just know he's a pastor at Church on the Move. And Big C and Chris Stevens, they know him way more better than me. Miss Margot Bush knows him too. I don't really know a lot about the churches and all the people in the churches because, you know, it's still
GSL's where you are?
Yeah. But that happened. And when that happened, I took it as a sign, hey, go ask Pastor Dixie to get in the program again. So that day I went over there and I said, hey, Pastor, man, I've been doing kind of good a little bit. I know I messed up and everything, but if you'll give me another chance, I need that right now. And he was like, you know what? My staff, we've had meeting after meeting about this. Everybody told me not to help you. He said, but you know what? God told me to help you. He said, go find a place to stay. I'm going to pay for it. Even though my staff don't want you here, I'm going to pay for your place to stay. And you're going to get sober. And you're going to do what you got to do right there. And we're going to show them that you can do it. So I said, all right. I went looking for an apartment everywhere. Couldn't find one. Only ones that were renting me is apartments right next to the church. So I moved in right next to the church, right next to the program and everything. And slowly but surely, we built our way up. You know, like I said, I started off throwing the trash, just helping out, sweeping up and stuff. And then we became a member of the church. And when we became a member of the church, I seen a chart. Pastor Dixie has this chart of the goal of the church, the different things that he wants to accomplish through the people of the church. And one of them is the outreach, to go and feed homeless people. So I had already, me and my wife, so every time I read something in the Bible, I try to put it into action, right? And so like it says in Isaiah 58:10, you know, feed the hungry and help those in trouble, and then your light will shine in darkness, right? So I told my wife, well, every day, just cook a little extra and I'll take it to the people under the bridge. There's a bridge by the church where the liquor store is. And I knew the people down there. So I would take food to them, and next thing you know, 2 people became 3 or 4, and then I would have like 5 people I would take food to. So I told Pastor Dixie, I said, man, I see one of the branches on the tree is outreach. And I told him, man, me and my wife have been feeding a couple people, but would you mind if we did the outreach, if we become that branch? And he was like, nah, let's do it. And so I got some brothers and sisters together, and we started going out every week to go feed the people up and down 11th Street. And from doing outreach, I started doing kids' church, and then I got a brother that was working with us, but he wasn't in the program, and he had a real bad drinking problem. His name's Jeff. I brought him into the program, and every day every morning I showed up at his apartment, and I made sure we went to work together. I made sure he read his Bible. Like, all day long we're together. After work, he'll go take a shower, I'll take a shower, he'll come to my house and we'll eat dinner together, everything together. And then he got strong, and he graduated the program, went and got a house, he's got his family, he's doing all that. And when I seen that, I said, wow, I would like to help other brothers walk through that too. And my wife too, she walks a couple sisters through. So that's what we do right now. Also, we do the outreach, we do the children's pastoring, and we mentor brothers and sisters that are in the program with us, help walk them through the whole little process.
A bit different life than what you imagined when you were being termed as little convict when you were 3 years old?
Yeah, definitely.
Different. And if you could hand a key off to your younger self somewhere along that journey, what would that be? What would that key to a different lifestyle be if you could hand that to your younger self?
I would have told myself to give God a chance. Know who he is for yourself. When I went to the prison on Friday, I told him, man, even when I was in the streets, I didn't listen to what people say. People could say anything. I always want to know for myself what's true and what's false. And because of that mentality, I approached the Bible the same way. I approached God the same way. I said, I don't want to listen to what nobody says. I want to know God myself. I want to know if this is real myself. I'm going to open the Bible. I'm going to read it. I want to understand it for myself. I want to know who Jesus Christ is for myself. And, but you got to give God that opportunity, and I would have told myself that a long time ago. Give God a chance, know him for yourself, and everything, he'll do everything else. He'll make it happen,
Including breaking you?
Including breaking you, you got to get broke down to be rebuilt.
And he was right there when you were ready to be rebuilt.
Oh, yeah. When I got shot on 23rd and South Jackson. The bullet, I got the first one, the guy shot the gun out of my hand because we were shooting at each other. So the first one went through my hand, and I was holding the gun like this. So the first one would have hit me in the face, but it hit me in the hand. And it spun me, and the second one hit me in the back and went all the way to my pelvis bone. But when I went to the doctor and they did surgery on me, the doctors were thinking that the bullet was lodged in my pelvis bone, right? But when I woke up from surgery, the doctors were like, well, we don't know how to explain this, but we thought the bullets were lodged in your bone. We thought that's what stopped it, but they weren't lodged in there. The bullet was just sitting on top of my pelvis bone. So all they had to do was pull it right out of me. And he was like, we don't even know what stopped that bullet. And I got shot with a 40. And, usually that'll just boom.
Blow you out,
right? And they were like, we don't know what stopped it. So I can even look back at times like that. And, I got stabbed in the head. When I was in prison, I got all stabbed up and stuff. And look back at those different times and see how God spared my life many times when I should have died. And even getting into that shootout, it was on the news and everything. And I didn't say nothing. The side was being uncooperative. Well, I could have went to jail. The police never found out nothing, and I didn't go to jail. The other guy didn't go to jail. It was like I could have went to jail for that, but God preserved me. And I can look back at different moments in my life where I should have died, or I should have been all bad. But God spared my life for this time right now.
So give God a chance. and know that he will break you by showing you that what you might have done to that point in your life was not good for you and those around you. But he'll equip you through that so that you can love people from a perspective that they can relate to.
Yes, definitely. God will break you down and build you up to be the person that he needs you to be to reach the people, you know. But also because we're humans, we like the bad stuff, you know. It's something inside of us, like the sinful nature, you know, that likes to go the other way. Not just drugs, but just it could be me being mean, you know. That they like something inside of us likes to go the other way, but God will show you that his way is the best way, not just for you, but for everybody, you know. And that's one thing I know about God is that the way that he wants us to live is not just the best for us, but it's best for the whole world when people live by the word of God, you know. It's not just for my life, but it's beneficial for all the people around me, you know.
Does that lifestyle feel better?
Way, way better. That it feels good to do good. You know, there's a movie that my kids like to watch. It's called Bad Guys. And it shows like this wolf and all these bad animals. They're always doing bad stuff. And then he picks up a purse one day for an old lady that drops a purse. And he picks it up and gives it to her. She's like, oh, you're such a good boy. And his tail starts wagging. And he's like, wow, that felt good to do good, right? And that's exactly how I feel. It feels good to do good, you know, when I go out there and pray for the homeless and feed them and talk to them about the word of God or anything that I do, it's way more better feeling than anything I've ever felt, you know? Like,
it's amazing how that works backwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
You trying to take and trying to manipulate, and it feels bad. But then when you have that light switch turned on, that God is taking you to the bottom, he's showing you who he is, and you start operating in his love, helping others instead of trying to tear them down.
Yeah.
Huge difference in life, isn't it?
Way big difference. And I don't know where in the Bible, but it says that the same comfort we were shown is the same comfort we should show to other people, right? And so a lot of times we have to go through these type of things to know what other people will need. You know, how am I gonna know how to comfort my brother when he's addicted to methamphetamine? He's in the gang, he's been in prison his whole life, he's been homeless his whole life, he don't have nobody. How can I know how to comfort him if I have not been through that myself? How do I know what to tell him? How do I know what to expect? I have to go through that myself. And God has to comfort me and show me these things so then I can say, okay, I know what my brother's going through right now.
So don't disqualify yourself.
Definitely don't disqualify yourself. Man, God will use anybody, especially the person at the way bottom. Man, there's people that have been through way worse than me, and God is using them in major ways right now. There's a brother in our church, his name's Robert, and he's the associate pastor of our church. And he was in prison for like 30-something years, and he had a murder case, and, you know, he had a bad life. And God is using him in big ways. And I see different people in my church that have been through so much trauma since they were kids, been molested, raped, so much bad stuff, you know. And I see how God is using them, and I say, wow, you know what? God loves to clean people up and use them for beautiful things, you know. That's what he does. That's why I love God, you know.
So no matter where you are or what you've done, give God a chance and he will show himself real to you.
That's right. Yes.
Thanks for coming.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?